not actually seeing it or without doing a kind
Yeah,
of video.
it's
I
difficult.
did some screencast yesterday, and it's also hard to do screencasts because you need to know how to change the focus of the thing inside. You cannot do a full screen thing too well if you want to contain just the details of interest, or if you want to make the video compact enough. If you make the video sized for something like YouTube, the things won't be legible. So you will not be able to actually see the entire screen. You won't be able to read things. You won't barely even see the pointer. So then you have to like limit the size of the capture, and you need to know exactly what you're doing, and you need to plan what you're going to show and how. I just find it's extremely difficult thing to make a good video
I,
explain.
th- I think one thing that can be drawn. I mean, you can. The beauty of one of the beauties of Linux is that you can customize almost every single facet of your desktop and your operating system exactly to how you want it, and it's very much a personal choice. I mean, there's so many applications and so many different tweaks and systems that you can use that there's no two Linux desktops the same, I'd hazard a guess, unless they've just installed it out of the box, never touched anything on it. And even coming to something so simple as a code editor, I'm quite sure my choice of code editor is completely different to yours, Roy. And just to test that theory, what code editor do you use?
Depends what kind of code.
Ah, you don't have a generic. I've just one that I
No,
use GNU.
I don't have one because
All right.
some of them actually built in with debuggers in them. So if you want to do some breakpoints and things like that, I cannot use K to do that. But usually I use Kate for not coding, but just to edit files, memos, things like that. I never use if I want to do a document, I write a paper, I always use LaTeX. If I use LaTeX, I do it in Kate because Kate does syntax highlighting of
Mm.
things. And if I want to use something more fancy, I just run Lix, and that uses Qt interface, and it's really quite nice. But yeah,
Because my IDE of choice is GNU version 0.19, I think, point 0.2. 0.19.2 is my choice. So there's a recommendation if anybody wants to try it. It's a pretty good little IDE that encompasses quite a few different languages. So
why don't you use Notepad? If you install one, you can get Note. It's even I,
yeah, the offer's
yeah,
tempting there, Roy,
everyone's
isn't it?
using that. Everyone's using that. Why don't you do that? And
Yeah,
in WordPad, I remember in Windows 98 when I would use WordPad because that was like the best editor available with Windows. Every
no,
time you click save, it would just put the thing in it. It would just put the whole thing, the whole screen would jump to put the line you're in at the top of the screen. Extremely distracting. I mean,
no, I've got that on my list. That's on my list of things to do, along with installing Windows Media Player and installing Internet Explorer, I think, as well. Yeah. No, I shall leave Notepad. In fact, funny enough, Wine has its own sort of implementation of Notepad, unless I'm mistaken.
does it?
Yes, it did. I've said that now, and I'm looking on my Wine directory, and it doesn't have it. Typical. I am sure. I could be wrong, but I am sure that Wine had its own. It couldn't have been the real Notepad because obviously
So
that
you
would
can
have.
have a very ugly gray type of thing when you edit your thing, and you
Hmm.
get no features in it, which is great. So you get it
Yeah.
for free. No, that's what I don't understand. For example, why they don't even have a list of words, which is just a spell checker with obviously with some extensions to it to do all kinds of things like pluralism and things. Uh, they don't even have that in Windows as part of the basic package.
Yeah.
And they could actually give you a better editor. I think that there is the risk that if they give you something decent, they will be accused of stomping on competition and trying to discourage people from installing something else. But I mean, they've been delivering some of the same applications and games now since like almost Windows 3 point something days.
Mm.
Obviously they've changed a few things. They removed a few bugs because even making simple programs and games, they even have bugs there usually, and they even had vulnerabilities in some of the very simple games that they had. I have no idea how they code simple card games to, like, for people to almost take over your computer. That's just up to them to do it somehow. That's been a while. They don't actually touch and change any of these things. But in any case, the things with the editors, that's a very, very good example of how you install an operating system, and there is nothing decent for you not only to open your Office documents, and I mean Office in lowercase, just Office documents, or some letters that you have, maybe your CV or your, letter you sent to your neighbor, and you then need to, you need to buy Office, or you open this thing and you open the file in something called WordPad, which I suppose they try to give a facelift now with they try to give a facelift to it with the ribbon interface. I can never remember what it's called. Well, why is it called a ribbon anyway? It's supposed to visualize ribbons like and layers.
I think, yeah. Like I say, I didn't really follow.
Kind of give it a rainbow type of feeling, kind of, it's like a ribbon, It's,
well, the worrying thing is, Roy, which we haven't covered, is that with all these fancy features coming to Office, which I'm damned if I could see what functionality they bring other than looking pretty. But with all these new additions and fluff and bells and whistles, there's only one thing missing from Microsoft Office, which has been sorely missed for quite a few years now, which Microsoft has yet to bring back in a new tarted up and lipstick on a pig type way that we know that Microsoft's very good at fluffing up, and that would be Clippy.
Well, is it coming back?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. He needs to come back.
Maybe that. I'm excited there for a second.
No. Sorry, yeah. I didn't mean to build your hopes up. Yeah, I think Clippy should maybe be considered for the next version of Microsoft Office because it's about the only thing that hasn't been facelifted and sort of smacked on as a new feature. So
send a vocabulary and just try to. No, it was really strange. You can always disable the thing, but I think it became a very mythical, kind of symbolic thing of the failure and how you send users. They try to do something and you try to help them. And sometimes you say, well, you don't need to help people too much, or you don't need to give them too many dialogues because it'll just confuse them even more. Because they say, well, I was just about to write the paper, and then they asked me this question, and I forgot what I was going to write. Or, and I'm not even sure I'm doing the right thing because this thing was telling me something, and I just clicked on it, and just go away. Maybe it told me something important, and that's kind of like giving too many signals is sometimes a really bad thing because people don't pay attention to the really important things. One of the things with the deny and cancel things in the UAC, nagging users about everything they delete or install, it just keeps nagging them, and they don't really know what's important, what's not important anymore, and just ignore everything.
Well, to end, what I'm going to say, I'll be sticking just for old time's sake, as it were, and bring back some fond, happy in inverted commas memories. I'll be sticking some of the funny Clippy spoofs that have been put as pictures on the internet. And there's some quite good ones actually, so I'll be putting them on the show notes. they are quite good. But before we finish for today's show, Roy, on the subject of Clippy, on a sort of semi-serious note, prior to Clippy, I seem to have a recollection. Maybe it was Windows 95, but they had an Office Assistant instead of Clippy at that time, which was a female. It was like a very short piece of animation which used to pop up. I don't suppose you can remember her name. It was like an Office Assistant.
They thought about doing something like that around Vista days. It never materialized. They thought about having a very attractive lady. I think it's like a search.
I'm sure they had it.
A talking dog. They used to say the talking dog is a remainder of a remnant of Microsoft Bob. And there was something else.
Well, I'm thinking now maybe just because I've been looking on Google and I couldn't find anything in relation to that recently. Because I just wanted to know. I remember because when I got rid of her, I couldn't switch her off. Like Clippy used to have an annoying habit of coming back, and I couldn't switch it off. So I think I ended up deleting all her video files because she just basically played a sequence of videos. And then out of spite, she seems to have at the time she seemed to have ruined my my installation of whatever I think it was Microsoft Word I was using at the time. Having said that, it might have been something provided by the supplier of the PC, so it could well have been something like a Dell helper or an Acer helper, or even from Comet or wherever I bought the PC from. But I was just desperately trying to find any sort of relation to it, any sort of reference to it, and I couldn't find it. I was hoping that you might.
That's an example of over-exaggeration. Well, over-exaggeration is going to say over twice. But actually an exaggeration with features, where you try to put feature bloat to the point where you put bloats for the sake of having some bloat, or for the sake of having the user think, it fits on 2 CDs now, and therefore I'm getting more values for my, and also in the case of maybe your supplier was putting these videos out, that's just a way for them to try and distinguish themselves from the rest and saying, well, we give you more than just Office. And Microsoft has this thing, usually they do it in terms of clip arts or In the case of the DVD versions of Windows 7, they put more wallpapers and sounds and clip arts, videos perhaps, and it's really a bit of a waste of time. It could be supplied separately, but you're supposed